call the meeting to order at 5:31. I don't have anything to report, honestly. I don't have any of the numbers from Project Connect. And it feels like forever, like so much has happened.
Right.
Since the last time we met. So I don't know if you guys have anything to report.
So I actually reached out to the Sitka Sitka Homeless Coalition, and just kind of went over because they actually have a really beautiful new low income housing project that they put together. And all of the land was actually donated by Alaska Mental Health. So that's pretty interesting. I kind of had gone over their development for adults experiencing homelessness plan, and they've got some cool numbers in here. Majority of what I was looking at was just kind of how they presented it. Because I think that it's hard to throw numbers in people's face and make them understand what's going on and how it'll affect what we're trying to do. But I really liked the way that they had presented things, especially their funding opportunities and how they had planned to kind of showcase how they fund things. But it also goes over like the Juneau Housing First Collaborative and stuff like that as well too. Let me look for it. Perspective, topography, zoning. Yes. So if you kind of look at how they put their capital cost funding as just like a diagram, that felt really helpful and informative to me. I feel like we have a lot of information about what we want to do. And I think putting in a like rough presentation is kind of where I was starting to think, and how we can utilize specific ways of presenting to get the point across the easiest and most informative within the time that we have. So. One, and a lot of those on there too are kind of like what ifs. I know that a lot of those grant programs probably won't be around when we want them, but just the way that they had presented it seemed accurate. So, and we are presenting in March again, correct?
Yeah, I was wondering if, I don't remember what that date is. Was it the first meeting in March? Anybody remember?
If it's the first week, I'm hoping I'm gonna be here.
Debbie, is the first meeting the 6th?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Do
perfect.
you know if that's the one that we're supposed to be on the agenda for?
I think it is.
Okay.
Although you guys can certainly change that.
That works okay with me. I don't know who's presenting our
Is that noon?
specific idea.
Is that the 6th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
At noon.
Okay. Yeah, so we have like a month and this is a short month, so.
And I'll be gone that last week, but that doesn't mean,
I am too. Well, not that last week, but the
like the 27th through the 5th.
week before that is when I'm gone. But it would be nice if we could kind of compile some of those numbers like you have in that sheet
Yeah.
and just be able to present that to the assembly and just say, all we're looking for is, are we going down the right road? Or is this like a hard path?
Yeah.
And I'm hesitant, like I know they want information, but I also don't want to like spend all this work doing all these things and then for them to be like, no. this is
Well, and I
not the right
agree.
option.
And I think reiterating the fact that we're not asking for a yes or no. We're asking for ways to explore this option more. And just making sure we're reinforcing that fact to them and also doing it in a way that's not like, here's bottom line, like giving them as little information as possible and then being like, do you want this? Yes or no? But I agree. It would be hard to compile every single little detail and present it within 5 minutes because they're going to have so many questions and that's all I keep thinking.
And we're on the agenda, so we get more than just a 5 minute.
That's correct.
Okay.
You won't be
perfect.
limited in time because you'll be giving a report.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
And
cool.
was that person gonna come down and talk?
He did. Yeah, he
yeah.
did at the last meeting.
Oh,
Did it via Zoom,
okay, I missed, yeah, I was,
just,
Reporting, he did a pretty good job, I
oh,
think.
so that was yesterday,
Monday.
or I mean Monday. right,
Yes, and
right,
I don't
right.
have the recording up on the website yet, because it's two different recordings that I have to stitch together, and I need Becky, because I don't know how to do that. And we've been busy, so I'll try to get her to do that tomorrow, and then I'll get the recording up.
Okay, cool, yeah, I totally,
He did like a 15-20 minute presentation, I think, something like that.
And he touched on what other communities are doing and some areas that we could like point to get a good model, like that have similar. They're, I think, larger than we are, but have similar issues that we face. And kind of also said, you know, like you probably don't want to go off of Anchorage's model. It's very different
Mhm.
what they're dealing with than what we'd be dealing with. And brought up the fact that, you know, we are paying, Petersburg is paying for this expense right now. It's just in all these different budget categories that we
Right.
don't always calculate and formulate. But there has been research based on the Housing First model that shows, you know, when you provide housing, this actually reduces the expenses that are happening. And it's cheaper to pay someone to be housed rather than all the expense when they're not housed.
Well, and I
So-
think reiterating the fact to them too, that we're not asking them to buy a building, maintain it for us. We're asking for an option to lease.
Mhm.
An investment that not a lot of nonprofits would be able to put the money towards right now to be able to purchase and completely remodel. And talking to them about the responsibilities that they would have as well too, not just, you know, you buy it, you lease it to us, but like,
We are asking for them to buy it though. right?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah,
And then that they would lease it to another organization, like maybe the hospital, maybe HIP, maybe some, maybe PIA. I don't
Yeah.
know.
but it's also, I don't
Mhm.
want them to think that we're being like, okay, we're ready, give us a $500,000 check right now.
Mhm.
So we can go out and buy this with no other plans under our belt.
Yeah.
This is just a thought that we've had, or a solution to a problem that we think that does exist in Petersburg, and it would be beneficial to other entities in town, nonprofits, local organizations, to have this space to utilize. And I don't know, are we allowed public access to like they talked about the borough owns the courthouse? Is that what I'm hearing?
No,
No.
state.
Okay,
Actually, the state doesn't own it. It's private, yes. So they just rent the space or lease the space.
what one was I hearing about that the borough owns and then leases to?
Oh, well, we don't lease it, but we do own the museum, but they don't pay a lease. But the visitor center, the chamber building.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay,
And then
they
also
technically
the-
own the hospital, right? Or still?
Correct. We own the land and the building. Also, we own the ball field, but we lease it to Little League.
are we able to look at those leases?
Sure,
Okay. Would that be something you'd want to send to me later?
I can do that.
Okay. Just to kind of, 'cause I mean, a lease entails what they would be responsible for. So if we're able to look at programs that, or, you know, leases that the borough already has
Mhm.
and use those as, you know, formats. Because I feel like that's a big thing. Like a lease is a legally binding document. At that point, they're going to want to know, what are we responsible for maintenance?
Mhm.
What entity that ever rents it out is going to be responsible for what as well too.
Mhm.
But again, that's so big picture to put into one report.
So Annette, did you stay on long enough on the meeting on Monday to hear the Forest Service ranger give his report?
I did not. I had to go to another meeting, so I missed that.
He mentioned that they're looking at buying that building because they
Yeah.
need housing.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
I heard they need housing, but I didn't hear it at that meeting, so.
Yeah.
that's what I had heard as well too. And I'm wondering, they'll probably go for it quicker than we could ever come up with something to be able to.
Federal government.
Yeah.
Off the record.
Yeah, even if the needs assessment was ready soon, the grant process and that would be.
Oh, yeah, it would take
You'd-
quite a while.
You'd take up to 6 months out probably, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, if 6 months, I mean, grant application time is usually about 3 to 4 months, right? Like, don't they open them up specific times?
Funding source, federal grants take a long time sometimes. Like you'll apply in February and won't know until like September 30th that it starts October 1.
Okay.
All right, we gotta start all those things.
Oh, that's
Do
crazy.
you, Debbie, do you know if the needs assessment is being done or the housing? Whatever you call it, housing?
I know
assessment?
that they know that it has been approved and they said they were gonna get busy.
Okay. So,
Yeah, and
I
that's
wonder
what,
what the timeline is. I never really got like are we gonna get this in 6 months? Are we gonna get this in a year?
I can find out.
Okay.
Agnew Beck, that's the one doing it, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Agnew Beck, yeah.
That's who did this for the Housing Coalition with Sitka.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
I really liked working that with them and we've
Wouldn't-
done a couple of things with Wave with them too.
they do a lot for Alaska Housing Finance as well, too. I know they probably do most of the housing assessments in the Southeast.
Excuse me.
Okay, so for the March 6th meeting, we need, I think just like a layout of the chart, a proposal that we would have. I really liked Sarah's idea of looking at like the manor budget and reminding the assembly that we are providing housing, or the borough is providing housing in Petersburg through the
Elderly housing.
elderly housing program through Mountain View Manor. And I think that just kind of gets lumped in sometimes with the assisted living side, and that there is a program that exists that the borough is doing right now. And there is a housing director that is responsible for, what did we say? It was like 12 units or something?
I think it was 12 to 14 units.
Yeah. And that with our kind of long-term plan, our thought is that the person might be able to take on this with the transitional housing on the second and third floor,
Mhm.
and that isn't a unreasonable amount of work.
Completely agreed.
Maybe splitting the maintenance too, like their maintenance person up there,
Mhm.
be up there and possibly down here too. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of where I was kind of thinking with the leases that they already have for buildings. Kind of just, because I feel like the point that we've heard a lot is, well, we don't want to get involved in housing.
Mhm.
We're already involved in housing.
Mhm.
And like you said, reiterating the fact that, you're spending this much money for someone to handle 14 units. Who, I mean, I don't know how to do that without bringing mine and Sarah's job into play either, because I'm like, I manage 18 units and I do it or not even 18. I think it was 25 last time I counted, and I do it as a part-time job. And looking at the salary they budgeted for her, I don't even make that much. And I know that's so bad to say. I hate saying that. I don't like comparing salaries. That's not why we do it. But it just makes sense that if you're already spending this much money to have someone up there to manage that amount of units, especially if they're full. If
Mhm.
they're all full as well too, you're kind of not doing much, honestly, because you're not processing applications or anything like that unless you're working as your own finance HR. If you're the person doing every single little thing, then yeah, I could see that being what it is. But
And thinking of it as a revenue source, this is an opportunity for the borough to make money, which a lot of the housing proposals we've submitted are potential revenue sources for the borough. Just looking at property tax alone. But, okay, so we need to develop some sort of a chart budget proposal, and I think just write out some of these things. Does anybody have time to do that?
yeah, absolutely. I'll
'Cause I
kind of
don't.
take a lot of these diagrams and make like a mock budget of what it would be. Because I've got this one from Sitka, and then I've also got the one from Ketchikan with Path Housing.
Okay.
So I can kind of compare and contrast budget numbers, because like their whole budget is right here, operation costs and funding as well too. Like rent subsidies, they're making over $108,000 in revenue just from rental subsidies from like sponsor based vouchers, and that's a lot of money. Yeah, and their fair market rent is only $9.50, which wouldn't make sense. And then, yeah, it always blows my mind seeing how much federal government dollars actually goes to rent subsidies. Cause I love, they have rent subsidies, $108,000. And then the actual rent that they get from tenants is only $28,000. Kind of cool, honestly.
Yeah.
It's fun to see. Yeah, they have also like community donations, grant programs, and I'm looking at, I don't know if you know anything about it, Annette, the continuum of care. I
So
don't,
Brian talked a little bit at that meeting about those grants, and I don't know. I think that that's state funding, so that would be a state budget. They just did a funding cycle recently, and it was 2-year grant cycle, I think. It might have been 3. But during that call, they had talked about, they knew Humanity in Progress was not ready to submit this full grant yet. And so I said, well, is there going to be a grant cycle open next year? And they want to be open. They
Okay.
didn't have anything for sure. And I know that they have a priority for programs or communities that don't have anything that addresses housing or homelessness.
and then kind of, because I keep reading about it on Alaska Housing Finance, and then I looked on the HUD page as well too. And it's just way too confusing for me because it seems like such a broad grant that it will cover, you could use it for vouchers, you could use it for capital projects, multiple different issues, but I just couldn't really figure it out because it was so broad.
Yeah, it might be worth just talking to Brian directly about it.
Okay.
Because I think it changes also depending on I don't know who decides that, but.
Because then it was like, if you're under this area that is funded by continuum of care, it opens up other grant opportunities for vouchers for elderly people, for rental assistance or utility assistance, and all these other types of, there were grants piggybacking off of this continuum of care, which I, again, know nothing about. I have never looked at grant systems ever, so it's a lot. But I will call Brian, that's smart.
I'm wide open too, so I mean, if you want me to do certain things, I can. I'm not working, not yet.
So we said a layout of funding sources, a proposed budget, and then including in that budget would be, as like salary would be the housing director.
Yeah, and then that tier of this first year, we're focused on like a night shelter. And then the next 2 years, maybe the next year more remodeling one of the floors to see if we can get some additional housing units for transitional housing. And then the year after that, kind of implementing that program probably.
And then.
So like that grant that I have right now. Like maybe you could rent a few off that second floor because the stipulations are quite a bit different. Maybe just to generate some kind of revenue, and it wouldn't have to be, a big makeover or anything, basically, a bathroom, a place to sleep. I'm not trying to jump ahead. I'm really
No,
not.
no,
I'm just
of
trying to give them an incentive to go, oh, okay. If this can start producing money faster, it'll be, I think it'll be a little bit more, that might get a little more excited about it. As opposed to like, oh no, it sounds like a huge program. And
Oh, I've been looking stuff up. I've been looking up like little kits that are like 2 burner plates with a little fridge and a little
Yeah.
sink that connects to water. And it's all like this little like utilities bin is what they called it online. You
yeah,
just need the water hookup and stuff, and you like drill it into the wall. And I'm like, there's our kitchen right there.
I saw a trade here a week ago or so. Somebody had one
Yeah.
in Wrangell. It's just a little.
Yeah,
unit.
I saw that too.
Yeah, it was cool.
They're
Yeah.
pretty cool.
But yeah, something like that could be put in one of those rooms. Even if the bathroom and showers are down the hall washing.
Well, the only issue with that would be plumbing. Yeah, you'd have to put plumbing to each and every room. which I had to ask someone, and she was like, well, can't you use the sprinkler system? They're like, no, that's a high pressurized system that has to be on its own or on its own.
But
And
I
I
mean,
was like,
it
oh,
could certainly be split off to where,
yeah.
like the kitchen sink in the drain right there could tap into
Right.
to the existing.
Well, especially if you're, I mean, a lot of newer houses are built as well too with actually like the plumbing in the ceiling.
Right.
So it comes down. So even if that were to be something, if you were to look at the roof and then have plumbing coming down from each room,
Yeah.
you could just have each kitchen back to back in each room and then under each other. So, yeah, it would just be a lot of, the only thing is this would be a lot of money. That's all I keep thinking. I'm like, okay, and that's an added cost and this is an added cost.
Well, some of those grants we were,
Grants that will
you were
Oh,
bringing up before, I mean, some of them were up to what, like $1 million for
Yeah.
places that has nothing like.
The
Petersburg?
Main Street grant, I'm wondering, and that's the one I kept looking at, and sadly, the application period ended on the 23rd of January. And it was like over an award ceiling of $1 million for government, small government entities to take commercial spaces that are being unused in Main Street areas and turn them into low-income housing. And I was like, that's what we need. I was like, that's the perfect one right there. And that fell under this continuum of care grant. I don't understand how they're all connected, but it would mention it in there. So I'm wondering if it's something that other rural towns were using or anywhere in Alaska. I mean, it's kind of one of those you use it or lose it things. If people don't apply for it, they're not going to bring that grant up again. But
Right.
I would love to see who had taken advantage of that funding and actually produce something out of it. So, yeah, I think using that as an example as well too, and I can put that down in here under one of the funding sources as well.
Think that we should meet again before the March 6th meeting.
I'm down. I think we have another meeting.
Next Monday
On
Is that with everybody?
13th,
for the whole task
the
force.
task force. Yeah.
Yes, and it's at 6 PM and it's just a work session. So it's just, I think, for you guys to talk about what your next steps will be.
And which ones I didn't get to listen to the end of the meeting. Which ones did they vote yes for? All three of them?
Yes.
three.
Oh, cool. That's
Oh, yeah, that
awesome.
is cool.
Yay, that makes me happy.
Yeah,
I mean, even if they put a big no on us and this idea, it's nice to know that something came out of all of this. So
right.
good.
Well, I think, yeah, there's been a lot of great positive energy and just that housing assessment thing that's gonna go through and then with the Connect thing that just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I went up there for a bit. I was surprised. There was a lot of people there.
I think that even just having like Brian from Alaska Homeless Coalition come and talk really kind of put us on the radar of them. Mostly because working with PIA, it's always trying to get Tlingit and Haida involved because they're the ones we have to work through to get grants for housing. And they are just so overwhelmed with so many other tribal areas right now that I don't want to say they've neglected Petersburg, but sometimes I'm like, hey, we need help too. So, and I've only been at PIA for a year now. So I'm hoping that with the housing assessment and Brian coming to talk, it's kind of putting a spotlight on Petersburg for other outside sources as well too.
Well, there's definitely a lot more people talking about it. I mean,
Yeah.
my mom's like, really didn't know a whole lot about it. Now she's really informed. you know,
Right,
So the word is spreading. You know,
Yeah.
It's positive.
for sure.
So
which
just
is
as a
good.
heads up, I won't be able to make that February meeting, because I have
Okay.
another thing that's happening, or the February 13th meeting.
Okay.
But I think it would be good, and maybe you guys can decide at that meeting, if we want to meet again, or if that one's sufficient, because I don't want to distract, like, we can have kind of unique needs, I think.
Mhm.
And so maybe we can pick a time. I'm going to be out of town the 18th through the 23rd, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd fly out on the 18th too. I'm gonna go to Seattle till the 1st, go visit my son.
Oh, cool. Congrats.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
And then it's the 6th that we are doing the meeting. And I will be coming back that Monday or that Sunday, the 5th. And you said you're leaving the 18th?
Yeah, the 18th through the 23rd.
Do you want to, would you be wanting to do one the 23rd or do you want to do one on Friday? I know Friday is always kind of difficult, but would you want to do one that day you get back or?
I would not want to do that. day.
Okay, that's totally fine. Would you
I
be open
hate
to
going.
Friday?
I am open to Friday, but I don't know what everybody else's schedule looks like, and I don't know if we can do, I have that day off work, so I can work or be.
So
whatever.
Friday,
So-
the 24th?
Yes.
Well, I think at the 13th meeting,
5:30, Sarah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, Monday's at 6. Monday, the
okay.
13th, Dave has called a full task force work session.
Oh, I told the other grandma the wrong time.
So the 13th is the meeting that I won't be at, but if you guys decide that you want to have another meeting before to just kind of reassess our plans a little bit, let me know. And I might be able to make at least part of it, but
Okay.
I don't.
Well,
wanna
even if we
commit
do
to
a
it.
Thursday, like the 23rd, I'll talk with Ashley.
Yeah, you
as well,
guys
too.
can figure it out, like whatever works for you. Just know that I'll be traveling on those days, but
That's fine.
um,
Okay.
maybe I could remote into, I don't know. Let's see.
I'll talk with Ashley as well too, kind of see what she wants to do.
Then you can just let me know, Jalen.
Okay.
Well, I think we might be
Honestly,
wrapping
I'm
up,
like, I think
actually.
we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
Like when I misread it. So it was just the, okay, I didn't even need.
You're okay.
Subcommittee. There's so many meetings, so it's totally understandable.
I
But
had to call Debbie and be like, are we meeting today? Because the meeting or the messages confused me.
I know. And then the radio got confused because Dave called him this morning and said, no, there's no meeting tonight. It's Monday night.
oh,
And I was like, I heard it on the radio as I'm getting ready for work. I was like, Dave, I text him right away.
Read her email though.
yeah.
Good job.
I was so confused.
It's been too busy. I haven't even gotten.
My
to
brain's
email yet.
fried from
It's
Yeah.
okay.
I think we all kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
filling.
I know Ashley had to reschedule too, and she was like, I can't come. So yeah.
Well, I thought Amanda and Jesse were getting home on Wednesday till today, and I was like, oh, it's Thursday. I'm on duty for another day. A whole other week. No, I don't know why I thought the 16th was on Thursday, so I'm all screwed up.
So there are quick summaries.
Yes.
that, Jalen is gonna come together, like pulling together some plans and numbers for us. And then we're gonna meet on the 13th with the whole group. And
Okay.
come up with a time if we feel like we need to meet again before the 6th when we do our presentation to the assembly. So we'll just kind of see how things kind of come together.
I got really awesome info from Sitka.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like just the way that their homeless coalition works is really awesome. They like, this is pretty much their housing needs assessment. And like the way they've done it and how they've pretty much taken their assessment and then built this together with the same company that did the assessment. And then I think this is pretty much what they present to their borough as well too. Like, here you go, here's how we're doing it. And they're doing a
They
lot.
already have a housing director
I
in
think
place,
so.
like we do?
I don't know. That's where I have to look, honestly.
We mentioned
That's like capital costs and funding. That's where I've been looking is their funding and what they do as well. So
I just
Yeah, they
honestly
have-
think it can be absorbed.
they have Baranoff Housing Authority. So they have an
Okay.
actual, like,
Oh, okay.
mostly tribal, some non-tribal affordable housing. And then their borough, the Salvation Army, and then they have their actual own like homeless coalition over there. Cause all of our AHFC applications for rental vouchers actually go through Sitka now. They used to go through Anchorage and they've established, I think because of this and the land trust and everything they've been doing over there for housing, that they've decided to establish that as their southeast base. So
Okay.
yeah, it's
interesting.
kind of interesting. But yeah,
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
of course. Thank you.
And thank you so much for doing all.
Maybe
the
I'll
work.
drive the loop. before I go.
Yeah.